Welcome to TradeNBI.com. This is John. This report is for Friday the 13th. And of course, everybody is going to be scared of black cats, but certainly not the market at this particular stage. Currently, we're hitting up at the 4,008. We expected to reach this given what we were seeing from the readings. And then it was a question of when do we see the cave of the magenta, being that this was unsustainable at this level. The question really became, white MBI dip much further faster, and will there be a crossover? Once the crossover takes place, and particularly if it's below the 33, then you can expect a significant retrace. We were never in an extreme case throughout this run, so don't have to see any significant retrace of note unless there's a economic reason to justify it, and that doesn't appear to be the case. Things are chugging along, maybe not great, maybe not perfect, but good enough. I think is the best way to describe it. And so hitting up against this 4,008 previous algo level will be kind of a critical one to see move back above it. We had quite an interesting day the other day with the ups and the downs, but overall, there were still plenty of new buyers to pull things up when it started to look a little weak. From an NQ standpoint, still stronger. Hasn't even begun. That, of course, is the start of the day when we look at those readings from the daily. Going to change dramatically before the end of the day, but at least gives you a pre-idea as to where things are headed. And still rising with the DOC on NASDAQ as well. Midterm buyers, a little fade in that to start the day. It was flat yesterday, even with the amount of buying that took place, and that was clearly indicative of the midterm, long-term buyers really supporting the market. And not surprising given the start of the year and the need to position. Again, everyone's expecting a rate collapse, except for the Fed is the only one who hasn't broadcasted a rate collapse. So it's an interesting dynamic that we're seeing within that, and it's reflected in currencies in that as well. I mean, like the euro is skyrocketing because of this expectation that the U.S. is going to be cutting rates, not getting tighter. And so, again, it just becomes a question of credibility at this point. And basically, they're saying they don't believe the Fed in any way, shape, or form, or that inflation is going to completely end. But you're looking at oil. Is inflation going to disappear here with oil at 78? No. No. The rate of inflation may have changed. That doesn't mean that the cost of things are going to come down. Um, Often a misnomer. Why is my chart not moving? There we go. And there's the euro. Continuous climb. I mean, it's just right within the expectation of what we were looking for. There really wasn't a whole lot of downside once the Fed stepped in. This one was not a shock. This is something we've been talking about for a little while, that it was an opportunity to get into that crypto space as things started to level out and the details known on where things were with the whole FTX situation. And we could see there was just fewer sellers related to it because all that had been shaken out. And that meant any new buyers coming in, you're going to have to pay quite a bit more to convince someone. Now, these are on positive extremes, but it was a significant move and worth noting. What happened to my ETH? Okay, it's acting a little funny. That's 50K we're looking at. Um, we're just sort of peeking across the top line here. Not a whole lot to speak of in that sense. It's just sideways action, mostly with magenta leading. We did get some spikes of the white that did come through. And in that particular case, as we get a little bit of the weakness, we're going to need to see a resurgence of that. But it does call for us at least to move back down to the 50% range, which would be interesting, getting us back to the 39.68 level. We'll take a look at the 5K. It was pretty dramatic. We started out and big dump right back down to the previous algo here at 57. Went a little bit, well, it's a tiny fraction below. And then we moved back up to the same previous algos here at 39.70. That we didn't drop down to the 38, I think showed incredible strength. But the sells were pretty clean with the white MBIs leading us back to the zeros. But it was the strong buy action that really kept things afloat. As you can see, we're staying above 38 through most of those. And even when there's the brief sell action, quick turnaround, kept it inflated. And it was a big day because, I mean, we haven't had to do this in a while where we scroll across for two full screens there. And you can see that every turnaround pop limited in its scope to the downside, and then really peaking out here with some really strong magenta runs um, that every time they had a positive extreme, though, filled nicely. So this is that kind of mean reversion action that really typifies more normalcy than not. And it's good to see. And they keep testing these previous algos pretty strong, and you're getting nice bounce back off of them. And I think that's something to really draw some serious conclusions from, that there's some significant buyers, but it's all taking place under programmed constructs. So the deviations up and down, like, the expectation getting up to that this 39.93, the 4,000 8 range, pre-done from a computer standpoint. So the moves around it, just noise. And that's what they do. They make noise, and at the end of the day, you still end up exactly back to the algo levels. So keep that one in mind as you're focused on the trade today. As always, trade well. Look for me on the Skype chat. Have a good one.